pike, and it's blocked, and it is going to be covered by the Saints for a touchdown.
It's your inside pass to everything Saints football.
See you later, bye. Touchdown, Rashid Shaheed.
We'll take you to places most fans never go. To practice, to the sideline, to the locker room, following every twist, turn, and touchdown of the Saints season.
That is going to be a touchdown. Taysom Hill. Taysom TD.
Welcome to Inside Black and Gold.
To the end zone, and that is a touchdown for Chris Olave.
Now, here are your hosts, Steve Geller and Jeff Nowak.
Oh, baby!
Hey, y'all. Who dat and what is up? I am Jeff Nowak. This is Inside Black and Gold. Training Camp Edition. Training Camp Edition? Yes. Training Camp Edition. We've got quarterbacks. We've got fights. Yes, fights. If you went after the prop of who on the Saints was going to get into a fight first, I don't think your bet would have been Brandon Cooks and Rajon Wright, but that's what we had. Second day of practice towards the end. Fists were flying. And, we talk about fights, scuffles. This was a real fight. There was blows being thrown. And I don't know if anyone connected, but hey, it's training camp. I always say training camp doesn't really start until you get into a fight, and that's what we got today. So gonna hit you with a quicker episode today. I haven't gotten a chance to go through and cut down all of the interviews we've had. It's always a tight 48 hours, 72 hours when we start camp. Everything is fresh. There's a lot of content to put out. So this is going to be an audio only podcast. I didn't really have time to put together any video assets. And I also look like a wreck. I am actively sweating right now because that's this time of year in Louisiana. Once you start sweating, you don't stop. So I figured I didn't want to subject anyone to that, but I do have a lot of notes, some stuff I want to go through. I have some thoughts on Tyler Shough, on Spencer Rattler, on Jake Haener. First team reps for Jake Haener? We'll see. That's what Kellen said. And we're going to go through a lot of that. My plan is to come back around probably on Monday and have a full episode with clips, interviews, all that stuff. I just haven't had time, but I did want to get an episode out to y'all before the weekend. Steve Geller and myself are going to be hosting SportsTalk on Friday, so we'll have a lot of that there. We'll have a lot of sound. So if you want to get a preview of that episode, definitely check that out. But in this episode, it's going to be 3 segments. The first is going to be kind of me dumping my notebook out, giving you some of the observations I've had to this point. There's really not a ton at this point, to be honest. Like, I'm going to tell you stuff because you want to know stuff. But this is always the time of camp that I don't want to take any stands on anything because we just don't know anything. If people who are trying to read a ton into what they've seen over the last 48 hours, it's because they feel obligated. It really is. Like, there's so little we know. There's so little of the playbook that's actually been put out there. And we're just kind of setting a baseline right now. But that's what the first segment's going to be. Second segment, I'm going to play you an interview that Steve Geller and myself did with Taliese Fuaga, second-year offensive tackle, shifting back to the right side. Had a great interview with Tally, so I wanted to play that for you. And then the final segment, I'm going to give you a call-in segment that I did on Sports Talk with Steve Geller today, Thursday, breaking down what we've seen over the first 2 days of camp. So let's get into it. Again, Jeff Nowak coming at you quasi-solo. Like, you're going to hear a lot from Steve, but he's not actively with me. So it's almost kind of a solo pod that's not a solo pod. That is a solo pod, but this is Inside Black and Gold. We're knee-deep in training camp. We're getting ready to go out to California in a couple weeks. It is fun times to be the team that everyone thinks is the worst team in the NFL. But all right, let's hit a quick break. And we're going to come back with that notebook. Stick around. And we're back on Inside Black and Gold. Jeff Nowak here, coming at you solo for a quick audio-only episode, as I explained, just to kind of recap the first 2 days of camp, give you some of the stuff I've observed, some of my notes, some of what all has happened, full well with the understanding that we're so early into this process. There's no handicapping of the quarterback position. There's nothing that's been done over the first 2 days of camp is going to be determinant in any way on any position battle. We are getting started here. It's about how you start. It's about how you develop, and it's about how you finish. And then you go into the regular season and you start playing real games, right? But we have gotten a good look at the quarterbacks, right? At least these first 2 days of camp. If you believe Jake Haener is actually in this quarterback competition, which Kellen Moore did say he's going to get first team reps in some capacity on Friday. We'll have to wait and see what that looks like. We don't have that part of it yet. I'm comfortable enough saying it's a 2-horse race. And if Jake plays out of his mind and one of these players just falls off a cliff, then maybe you have a conversation. For now, it's Spencer Rattler and Tyler Shough. And I'm going to be honest, if I had to make a decision today, thankfully we don't, but if I had to make a decision today on who's going to start a game for me, it would be Spencer Rattler. And it's in large part because Spencer Rattler has come out the last 2 days and looked like a second-year quarterback and looked like a guy who started 6 games last year, a guy who's not actively adjusting to NFL speed, who's seen NFL concepts, who has worked against NFL level athletes for a year. He looks like that. The ball's coming out on time. The ball's coming out on target. You know, he's not getting sped up the way that I think Tyler Shough has been sped up a little bit over these first 2 days. Now, I did see Tyler kind of settle in today, right? I thought he really had a rough practice on day one. I would say it was his worst practice of the offseason on day one. And conversely, to Spencer Rattler, Tyler Shough looked like a rookie quarterback going against a full NFL defense with a pass rush, with everything, for the first time. That's what he looked like. And here's the thing. That's what he is. Spencer Rattler is a second-year pro coming back after 6 starts and is a little ahead of the curve. Tyler Shough is a rookie coming into 11-on-11 drills for the first time, because we didn't do that at OTAs. We didn't do that at minicamp. So that's not a negative. That's just the reality, right? Like, he didn't show up and blow me away. He showed up and looked like a guy who's developing at the NFL level, and we'll have to wait and see. My concern for Tyler is I just don't see the ball coming out on time, right? Like, it's like he's not trusting his reads, and maybe he's not. You know, we have seen some quarterback runs. We've seen Kellen Moore run a little tempo. We saw red zone work today. So you're just getting into the offense. I think a lot of this is you're just throwing stuff at guys and seeing what you have in your bag, what you need to add to your bag, what you're comfortable with, what you remember from the install from a month and a half ago, what needs to be dusted up, what needs to be worked on, right? But that's where we are. Spencer went 9 of 9 on day one, but it was a very kind of ho-hum 9 of 9. I think he only had one pass that went more than 10 yards downfield. But again, that's what you want to see. You want to see accuracy. You want to see consistency. And that's what he's shown right now. And, you know, I came into camp kind of feeling like the most likely outcome was Spencer Rattler starts week 1, and then you see how it goes. And if it goes poorly, then you have a bridge and you get to Tyler Shough sometime midway through the season. I've always said week 12 kind of felt like, or whatever week you play the Falcons, week 12. I've said like week 12 makes a lot of sense to me coming off the bye home against the Falcons. But again, it is what it is. Like, this is a full competition. Kellen did say that these guys came in on an even playing field. So we'll see if that's true or not, right? Like, Spencer got the first team reps on Wednesday. Tyler got the first team reps on Thursday. And you're just going to kind of see how that goes. I don't think we're going to really know high or low until we get to the first preseason game and you play the Chargers and you see how those reps are split up. You see how those guys handle when the real, quote unquote, real bullets are flying, if you count the preseason as real bullets, because those are going to be effectively regular season games for these quarterbacks in determining how that's going to go. You know, I did think that Tyler, again, like I said, I think Tyler settled in a little bit today. I thought some of his best throws came as the practice went on. The first set, again, he looked like he was a little sped up. You know, he had a ball to Trayton Welch that, you know, I thought there was some room to catch and run, but it was kind of delivered low and outside. Trayton kind of had to fight it, bring it in, he asked him to do a little too much, and he was tackled, but he would have been tackled. He would have been down right away. And that's, you know, those are the type of throws. It's like, you know, you're leaving yardage on the table, and you don't like to see that. You know, there were a couple snaps that it just felt like he was a little off time. You know, the offense in general, and we can say Spencer's running it better, I think the offense in general was a little slow going. I think you're figuring things out, right? I think these quarterbacks are kind of getting the timing down with a lot of the new concepts, the RPOs, the QB runs, and having an offensive line and a defensive line actually blocking, having to have that internal clock in your head. So that's just kind of how it's gone to this point. But I still feel good about both these quarterbacks. I still feel good about Tyler Shough. I still feel good about Spencer Rattler in terms of, one of these guys is going to start and we'll see what happens. I keep having people come at me on social media like I'm standing for the team and, I'm not. I have my head in the sand and this team's going to be terrible and I'm just ignoring it. I think they probably are going to be rough to watch. I do. But that doesn't mean that the quarterbacks are sorry. That just means that this is not the season that you're set up for success. But I do get in fights with fantasy football people all the time because they're just like, you're not paying attention. You're not watching film. Like, no, you're not watching anything. You're just assuming what you don't know. But that is what it is. But all right, moving on from the quarterbacks, because again, I don't want to read too much in these first 2 days. I really don't. And I could watch these clips that I've recorded. I can watch everything on social media. I can go back and I can kind of reassess. But at the end of the day, you're working on stuff right now. It doesn't have to be perfect. Heck, it shouldn't be perfect. Spencer Rattler threw an interception today, and I'm not going to make too big of a deal out of that than what it was, right? Like he said he was trying to throw the ball away out of the back of the end zone, didn't get it far enough. Quincy Riley came down with the ball. Mason Tipton was in the area, probably shouldn't have been thrown at all, probably should have been thrown out of bounds to the sideline. I don't think you want to throw the ball out of the back of the end zone on a throwaway because of exactly what happened. But that's hey, I learned that, right? Adding that to my book, and I'm moving on. Tyler Shough, I thought, had some really nice throws under pressure today. His last throw of the day was to Rashid Shaheed for a touchdown. Brandon Staley sent a 0 blitz. There was no back-end coverage, but everyone was coming. He took 2 steps back, laid a ball a little low. Rashid had to go down and get it, but front of the end zone, you want to have the ball low. You don't want to put the ball high. Catches it, takes it into the end zone. It's a really nice play against the pressure package. Like, when's the last time you saw a Saints quarterback face a 0 blitz and actually get the ball out? Think about that. Like I think it was the Falcons game last year with Derek Carr, and there was like multiple plays in a row. The Falcons just kept sending 0 blitz after 0 blitz after 0 blitz, and all you can do is kind of throw the ball up. You have to ID the coverage fast. You have to get to the ball to a one-on-one player who's going to win, and that's what he did. And so I like seeing that. I think the bigger challenge for Tyler at this point is when teams play coverage, when teams drop 8, and you have to trust what you're seeing. A cover 2 rolls into a cover 1 late, a middle open look rolls into a middle close look late, and you have to adjust to that in real time. And I think that's where you're seeing him a little slower. But again, I think that's going to pick up. One other thing I've appreciated, and then we'll get off the quarterbacks, Chris Olave and Spencer Rattler seem to have a pretty good connection, and I like to see that. I like to see your QB1, as it is right now, connecting with your wide receiver 1 and kind of getting that connection going. Like, I don't see any hesitancy for Chris Olave at this point. We did talk to him on Wednesday. He said all the right things. He understands where he is, which I appreciate. I think he's being very pragmatic about his situation. He said, hey, I'm not thinking about a contract right now, as you shouldn't be, right? But at the same time, his Ohio State teammate, a guy who got drafted, 2 picks ahead of him, 1 pick ahead of him, I can't remember, and Garrett Wilson just signed a massive extension. It would be easy to sit there and be like, well, what about me? But he understands where he is. He understands where the Saints are, and he wants to go out there and play a healthy season. So when the Saints look at this thing next year, it's not even a question. It's like, yeah, we're definitely going to extend this guy. It's just a matter of what those numbers are. Are you talking about $30+ million? Are you talking about $20+ million? Doesn't really matter right now because he needs to get out there and be healthy before that's a conversation. A couple other things, the running back position seems to be a complete rotation behind Alvin Kamara. Like, we've seen Devin Neal get first-team reps. We've seen Kendre Miller get first-team reps. We've seen a lot of guys get first-team reps. And so I think that's as big of a competition as anything. One thing I'll say, and knock on wood, is, hey, Kendre Miller's out there. Kendre Miller's working. I actually thought he had some nice moments today. You can't really judge a running back until the pads come on. You can thud, whatever you want to call it. Like, it is what it is. They can't tackle you. But I did think he showed some nice bursts, some nice vision today, working his way through the line. The fact of the matter is, he didn't get a training camp last year. He was hurt, right? He didn't, his rookie season, he was dealing with knee injury and ankle injury and whatever. He's healthy right now, and that's nice to see. You cannot make any impact whatsoever if you're not on the field. And so it's good to see him out there. Velus Jones has also been very involved. Like I've written down the number 13, which it is weird that he's wearing number 13. I've written down the number 13 a lot more than I expected. So that's just something to watch. Jalen Ford. I've had some people ask me about Jalen Ford. Jalen Ford's athleticism really stands out in a linebacker group that I wouldn't say is the most athletic, has the most foot speed of any linebacker group in the NFL. Like I really like Pete Werner, I really like Demario Davis, but sometimes I feel like they're a step slow. And then I watch Jalen Ford, and he just moves. Like he's smooth out there. It feels like he will eventually have sideline to sideline range. If one of those guys, if Pete Werner, if Demario Davis go down, I feel like he's a guy that can step up. And so, I'm excited to see him. Like I was excited to watch him last year, but he just had injuries, right? He had injuries to both hamstrings out in California. And I think it really kind of sapped any chance he had to make an impact. Anthony Orji was here last year. He was kind of ahead in that pecking order. So Jalen really just didn't make an impact in his rookie season, but you kept him. But I do think that he can. I actually really think that his skill set works. And so that's going to be an interesting position. DeMarco Jackson's been out there making plays. Danny Stutzman. I haven't really seen a ton from him yet, but he's just going to be a guy that's all over the place. He's an energy guy, and that's what you want out of your depth linebacker. So I feel good about those dudes. My last note, and again, we're going to have a ton more here. My last note, the tight end position past Juwan Johnson right now looks like it could be a serious issue. I don't have a ton of concerns about Juwan. Like he's going to get targets. He's going to get fed. And I think he's going to deliver. I think you're going to have a big season out of Juwan Johnson. But where's Foster Moreau? Where's Taysom Hill? I don't expect to see Taysom Hill back anytime soon. Foster maybe is a little ahead of that schedule, and he can get back and be kind of a B option, right? A TE2, if you will. But like Dallin Holker retired, I just don't see another option. If Juwan Johnson got hurt in week 1, I do not see a single player on this team that could be a serviceable tight end that is healthy right now. And that's a problem. Like Jack Stoll, he's a blocking tight end. He's not a guy that you're going to utilize in the pass game. And he showed some real sketchy hands over the first 2 days of practice. Multiple passes have hit his hands and ended up on the ground. One of them was at least a catch, got knocked out. Maliki Matavau, a player I like as kind of an edge player. He's not a guy that I think is going to be an impact in the passing game, right? Seth Green, Trayton Welch, like this is going to be a problem if you end up needing tight end depth to any degree. So that's a position that I would not be surprised at all if the Saints go and try to address that in the offseason, whether it's for free agency, whether maybe you try to swing a trade with somebody. I just think in Kellen Moore's offense, the tight end position is too important to just say, well, we got this guy, and then we're going to ignore anything else. So it's just something to keep in mind. All that said, I think Juwan has looked really good. Remember, he's another guy who was hurt. He didn't really have a training camp last year. I think he's due for a big year. We say that every year, but I really do think that he is due in this offense. He's going to get fed. I think you're talking about 90 to 100 targets, 60, 70 catches, 800 yards, 6-7 touchdowns, that type of season. And that's a big tight end season. So we'll see how that goes. Julian Blackmon, Jonathan Bullard were both out there today. I expect both those guys to end up being kind of at the top of a competition. Whether they win those competitions is another story. I think Julian Blackmon is going to be your starter next to Justin Reed. Jonathan Bullard, I think, has a steeper hill to climb, but I think his skill set is going to work for what the Saints need, and we're going to go from there. But all right, that's going to be just the notebook for today. Again, there's a ton more that I haven't been able to get to here, but I don't want to dive in on every single subject and pretend I know what I'm talking about after 2 days of practice. It was hot today compared to Wednesday, but even then it wasn't that hot. So we're going to have some hotter days here over the next week plus before we go out to California. And we're going to have more episodes of Inside Black and Gold. Again, I'm going to have interview clips. I'm going to have, we're going to have a lot more interview clips to play and react to. Ideally on Monday, if we can record on Monday. And again, Steve Geller and myself are hosting Sports Talk on Friday, and we'll have a cut off of that to throw in the podcast feed. But until then, Follow me on Twitter at Jeff_Nowak. You can hit me up if you're looking for anything in particular. Let me know. Again, if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. If you haven't rated and reviewed us on Apple Podcasts, please do. We're going to hit a break here and come back with an interview that Steve Geller and I did today, Thursday, with Saints right tackle Taliese Fuaga. Again, this is Inside Black and Gold. Stick around. And we're back here on Inside Black and Gold. Jeff Nowak coming at you for a quick episode after day 2 of many of Saints training camp. Kellen Moore is kind of installing his offense. You're seeing a lot more QB runs, a lot more RPO ideas. And, that's all well and good until your offensive line can't handle it. But the good news is I think the Saints offensive line could and should be a strength of the team this year. Like if this team punches above its weight, if all the prognosticators and their doom and gloom are wrong and the Saints win a bunch of games, contend for the playoffs, push 9-10 wins, maybe win the NFC South, it's going to be because this offensive line group delivers in the type of way you would hope that an offensive line with 4 first-round picks and a second-round pick can deliver. And stays on the field and stays healthy. That's the other wild card. Like if you can get good health, if Ted Rath and his new pro performance staff can give you that health that you've been looking for and that consistency and that availability that you've been looking for, then you have a chance. But one of the guys I am supremely confident in that group is Taliese Fuaga, a guy who, I think you're going to hear it in this interview. It's a lot more confident. If you go back and listen to his interviews from his rookie season, a lot more hesitant, a lot quieter, like you can see that he's kind of coming into his own. And I think he's going to move to right tackle. He's going to be even more comfortable than he was last year. You're not going to have to help him over on that side. So you're going to have a lot more options available to you. But without further ado, here's that interview that Steve and I did with Taliese Fuaga. Enjoy.
Taliese Fuaga, I'll tell you, man, when you got drafted, you had an intimidating name, but once you get used to it, it kind of rolls off the tongue.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure you got that. Like, you practicing or, what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
A lot of people in the car this morning. Yeah.
That's pretty on point right there.
Looking at year 1 in the NFL, you were switching to a new position and now back to the OG spot at right tackle. How do you feel, going back and forth? Was it a little bit tasking for you, or do you feel like you're pretty comfortable with making that switch?
Nah, I would say I'm pretty comfortable. I mean, I kind of played in college, all 4 years at right tackle. But, Kellen just asked, like, hey, man, do you mind playing right tackle? We're going to try Kelvin at the left side. And, I had no problem. Wherever they need me at, I'm going to play. If they need me at center, even though Eric said I can't play center, I'll play center. But
you've had that conversation?
Yeah.
He's like, that center's off.
I can play. He's like, oh, you can play all positions besides center. But that's my guy, so whatever he says, I guess.
How important is that as an offensive lineman to be willing to move around? Because we've seen that, right? Like we saw you switch sides of the line last year. When Trevor moved into guard, a lot of people might not have appreciated that decision. He seems upbeat, confident about it, honestly, a little excited about it even. How telling is that of your group, that everyone seems willing to just do what's necessary?
I think it's just everybody buying in, you know what I mean? It's, O-line, you got to be able to kind of go through those things, you know what I mean? Everybody has like a, one man goes down, it's the next man up. But as long as everybody can kind of play all positions, and we'll be ready for anything that comes our way. So
yeah, and just that group. So consistency. Obviously, Kelvin's new to it.
Right.
Losing Eric in week 3 last year and Caesar at the same time. How did that affect you as a young group, kind of gelling and going into this year? How important is that continuity for you?
Well, I say it's important. I told Eric himself, like, if you're ever feeling like you're, aching or whatever, just sit out. You know what I mean? Like, if it gets to that point, like, I want him to sit out. But he's not that guy. He likes to push through everything. And, that's kind of his mentality. But I need him and C's out there. Those are my guys. I kind of created, like, a big chemistry with those guys. And, it's just great to have him outside on the field. And Eric's just that guy. You know what I mean? He's like kind of like that heart of O-line. So
now we were talking to Caesar last week, maybe 2 weeks ago, and he was saying he was joking with you about maybe we'll play next to each other someday, and now you are. How has that been?
Man, I think he thought I was gonna play right side when I first came out of the draft and stuff. So, but playing next to him now, I like joking with the dude. We're joking every day, just trying to create a little chemistry. But he's just a funny dude. So.
Everybody obviously talking about the big QB competition going into this camp. How is it for the offensive line getting used to dealing with 4 different quarterbacks? Actually, is it that a challenge for you guys getting used to how they approach the offense?
I wouldn't say so, just because I think they're all on the same page. You know what I mean? So okay. I think running through plays, calls, everything kind of seems the same between all of them. But obviously, between them, it's just their throws, I guess. You know what I mean? So
right.
Everything seems pretty the same with those guys. So
going into year 2 now, what are some of the things you feel like you want to improve in your game from your rookie season?
I think just being more consistent. You know what I mean? So I think I showed kind of I can do this and that last year, but I think just consistency is my kind of thrive for this year. For sure.
Kellen's offense, I think, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems to have more RPO concepts in it than what maybe you ran last year. Right. Is that something you're comfortable with from your time in college? And, what are some of the differences when you're dealing with a lot of RPOs? Because obviously you have to hold, you don't want to get those ineligible man penalties. Otherwise, it becomes a conversation real quick.
Yeah. Not to go too much into the offense, but I would say I think it's just great because it kind of messes with the defense, you know what I mean? So it kind of just puts a lot of defensive players, backers, DNs out of place so where we can, that little crease inside their defense we could take. So, I love it. I feel like the rest of the line loves this offense, and it's kind of a simple just, get down and dirty. So.
And, I'm always curious. So is that just a timing thing? Do you watch to see what's happening, or do you just kind of have to go based on faith that they're getting it out on time?
Yeah, it's kind of there's kind of some technique to it. I'm watching the backers, D-lines, kind of like all their tails, you know what I mean? So, and you just got to know what kind of play we're running. So if we're running RPO and I see them backers kind of playing off or whatever, and they start to drop back, then I know it's a pass, so I can't really be downfield. Right. So little things like that, so.
Now, you're like a veteran of Louisiana now. How's it been getting acclimated, not just to the weather, just everything around here?
Acclimated to the weather is crazy. I don't know if I'm really acclimated all the way, but, it's pretty cool. Love the fans here. The community's pretty dope out here. Like a lot of guys say, if you love them back. So, it's been great, though. So
a little different weather than California.
Oh, big difference, yeah. Like opposite, basically.
How do you feel like the transition has been with not just a new head coach, man? It seems like there's a whole new coaching staff all around. Mm-hmm. What do you appreciate about this new offensive line staff?
I think it's like they just have a mentality to try new things, you know what I mean? So if one thing doesn't really work for one person, then, they'll try other things because everybody's not really the same body or same people, and they don't work the same. The mechanics aren't the same. So just being able to kind of switch it up and let guys kind of do their thing and kind of be free, that's pretty dope to me. So.
You don't see a lot of rookies starting at left tackle in their rookie season. You made it look a lot easier than it is. What would be kind of your biggest piece of advice to Kelvin? What did you learn last year going through that process at the NFL level?
Man, number one thing I would say is just confidence. You know what I mean? I'm going to do as much as I can to help Kelvin be as much comfortable a guy he can be out there, just be him. You know what I mean? So I think just honing in on your skills because, he has the skill set to play tackle, either tackle or really any guard. I don't know about center because Eric says whatever. But, I think if he just has that confidence out there, he's a great player. And he can just go out there and do him. I think he could be a great player. So I think that kind of helps him at tackle. So.
With all the talk around from analysts, there's not much expectations for this Saints squad going into this season. Do you guys listen to that? I'm sure you can't avoid it, but do you kind of use it as the bulletin board material or, something to push you guys to strive for that excellence, or it just really noise out there that you really don't pay attention to?
We caught the news that, this year we're not going to be on any primetime games, no Monday or Thursday. It's kind of...
Maybe you get flexed.
Yeah, but it's definitely a little disrespectful, obviously, but at the same time, we don't really listen to that, but at the same time, we got to work, extra hard to be in those kind of games. But we're just going to try to prove them wrong this year, so...
I do wonder, so it's obviously a little disrespectful, but at the same time, is it kind of nice to just know, hey, we got regular weeks, there's no short week.
Yeah, for sure, because, I know I've talked to many guys from different teams. They do not like playing on Thursdays or Mondays. Yeah, it's quick turnarounds.
I don't even like playing on Thursdays. I don't play.
yeah. But, playing on Sunday, it is nice, though, we got a regular schedule probably the whole year, so not too bad.
Do you have any certain goals or aspirations you're looking for this season heading into year 2?
Nothing too much. I mean, just trying to do my job out there and trying to win some games. You know what I mean? So that's all it is.
Saints tackle Taliese Fuaga. Appreciate your time, man. Good luck this season. Look forward to seeing you more in action this training camp and come the regular season.
Yes, sir. Thank you, guys.
All right. Again, that was myself, Jeff Nowak, and Steve Geller chatting with Taliese Fuaga. Tally for short. You know, and again, like, one of the things I was struck by is, you know, I talked to this guy last year, and you were very aware that you were talking to a rookie player. I didn't get a sense of confidence. I got a sense that, like, he was confident in his ability on the football field, but anything beyond that, I didn't feel like you were getting that. And the guy I talked to today, it felt like, wow, this is a future team captain. Like, that's the vibe I got from him. And that's cool to see, you know, because these are kids when they get to the NFL. You know, it takes a little time to become a pro, to become a guy that has a voice in a locker room. And, you know, Eric McCoy, when he started in 2019, you know, he was the kid, right? Like, he was the kid learning from Teron Armstead and Ryan Ramczyk and Andres Pede and, you know, whoever else. Larry Warford, I think, was still on that offensive line. And then by the time those guys retired, Eric had kind of come into his own. And then it's like, no, that's obviously the team leader. But you wouldn't have looked at Eric in 2019 and said, like, oh yeah, that's the team captain right there, because he was a kid. And now I think you look at Tali and he's developing into that leadership mentality, and that's cool to see. Again, just a confident dude, like a guy. If I had to, like, handicap, okay, what is my concern level for this player, for this player, for this player? Like, my concern level for right tackle is as low as it's been in years. It's as low as it's been since, like, Ryan Ramczyk in 2021 before the injury struck. Like, that's going to be a rock steady position. And I'm excited about that, because it's been a while since I've been able to say that. The question's going to be at left tackle, and if Kelvin Banks can do what Tally did, right? Because I'm going to tell you, he made it look way easier. That's what I said to him. Like, he made it look way easier than it is to walk in the door as a rookie in the NFL, start 17 games at left tackle, and not be the constant topic of conversation about why you lost. Because it's really, really easy to be that when you were a rookie in the NFL. So I'm excited. I'm excited for this offensive line group. I really am. I'm excited to see what Trevor Penning can do at guard. I'm excited to see what Cesar Ruiz and Tally can do on the right side. And we'll see what happens. But again, like I said, if this team is going to have success at a higher rate than people are expecting, if a young quarterback is going to step in and play well, not unlike Dak Prescott back in his rookie season when he started for the Cowboys, their superpower in that season was a great running game and probably the best offensive line in football. And for a team built like the Saints right now, with a lot of young players and a defense that you're just wondering about, it's got to be because you control the ball on offense with the run game, and you know, you allow your quarterback time to play behind the line of scrimmage. So we'll see what happens. But again, I want to thank Tali for chatting with me and Steve. I did enjoy that conversation. I'm looking forward to him this year. But all right, again, this is Inside Black and Gold. I am Jeff Nowak. We're going to hit another break and come back with a call-in interview that I did with Steve Geller and Charlie Long on SportsTalk, breaking down day 1 and day 2 of practice. Might be a little redundant because I recorded the opening segment prior to that call-in to, you know, efficiency. But we're going to get it. I do want to get Steve's take more than my own take. So we're going to hear it again, Inside Black and Gold. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do that. A ton of training camp content has come out already, is coming out, will be coming out over on WWL.com, in this podcast, over on YouTube at WWL Sports. Please subscribe. Please check it out. Please support us wherever you can. I always appreciate it. If you are out at training camp, any of these open practices, definitely yell my name. I will come over and talk to you. I promise. I thrive on attention. That might sound narcissistic, but hey, I think you have to be a little narcissistic to have a podcast or talk on the radio, because why does anyone care what I have to say? I don't know. I ask myself that question all the time. Clara, my wife, asked me that question too, and I don't have a good answer for it. But here I am, talking into a microphone after watching practice for 2 days, and I can't be happier about it. But all right, again, Inside Black and Gold. Stick around. And we're back inside Black and Gold, one more segment, and this is going to be a Sports Talk Field segment. I pulled down the call-in interview that I did on WWL Radio today with Steve Geller, breaking down day 1 and 2 of Saints training camp practice. Here you go.
Steve Geller along with Charlie Long, happy to welcome in now Saints sideline reporter Jeff Nowak. Just heard our interview with Taliese Fuaga earlier today. Jeff, how you been doing, man?
I'm still sweating.
No, it wasn't that bad.
I haven't been out of practice for like 6 hours. I'm still sweating. It's wild. Like once you, it's like this time of year. Once you start sweating, you just don't stop. And so I'm working on it. I'm a little dehydrated, but I think I can make it.
I definitely have been drinking a ton of water since I got to the station, and I didn't think it was that bad today, though. But man, oh man, I know it's coming because that cloud cover has been a blessing. It was, not as cloudy as yesterday, but we still got a little reprieve from that broiler being on high. What was high, obviously, the Saints QB competition. Everybody's been clamoring for news every day about that, and we got to see Tyler Shough, the rookie, taking first-team snaps today. Things started out a little shaky for him, and they improved gradually. I will say, at least, seems to have a nice connection with wide receiver Rashid Shaheed. Some pretty good hookups going on there. And just your impressions from Shough running with the ones today.
Yeah, it is interesting because if I had to pick, okay, who's Spencer Rattler's top connection right now? It'd be Chris Olave.
Yeah, right.
Who's Tyler Shough? It'd be Rashid Shaheed. So yeah, maybe they're having their own little pathways there. But no, Tyler, it's not about being perfect right now, and I think that's what because we're talking about a competition, kind of lose sight of that. This is practice. And, J.J. Watt tweeted about this today, and I couldn't agree more with what he said, which is like, you got to understand that not everything is about, 100% completion percentage, touchdown on every drive. It's like you're trying to do stuff. You're trying to work on concepts, and so is the defense, right? And so not everything's going to look perfect because you're working on things. And I think that's kind of what you're seeing with Tyler right now is you're developing, you're figuring things out. One thing Deuce said today, which I agree with, is, a lot of the last 2 days has been, okay, let's see what you remember. It's been a month and a half since we installed all this stuff during minicamp and OTAs. Let's see how fresh that still is. Like, what do we need to still work on? What do we need to figure out? One thing that I think Tyler has in his bag that is, when he ultimately plays at the NFL level is going to play well for him, is he handles pressure well. And I don't mean, an edge rusher coming off and beating the tackle and getting to him. I mean, like when the defense is sending extra rushers, he handles it very well. And even today, his last throw of the day, Brandon Staley wasn't taking it easy on him. He sent a zero blitz right at his face, and he was able to calmly just kind of backpedal a little bit, take a step or two back, find Rashid Shaheed. The ball was a little low, but he was able to haul it in for a touchdown. And, those are the type, when you're a young player and you can't handle pressure, it just keeps coming at you because the defense, it's like until you prove you can beat it, they're going to keep sending it. That's one of the things Spencer Rattler struggled with mightily last year. And
right.
It's one of the things I'm hoping that he can improve on this year. It's something that I think Tyler has. I think he struggles a little bit more when teams drop 8 and play coverage, because then you have to kind of trust your reads, and NFL safeties and defensive backs are so good at disguising coverages. And I think when you're a little slow as a young player, that's what it is. It's you're not trusting what you're seeing. You're waiting for it to change, and sometimes it does change, sometimes it doesn't. That moment of indecision becomes, it might as well be 10 minutes. You might as well be frozen in a block of ice. And so I think that's what you're seeing Tyler battle right now. I did appreciate, from the first set of practice reps to the end of the practice, I thought he made strides even from that point to that point, from day 1 to day 2. So, I wouldn't say it's been perfect for him. He hasn't put the ball in harm's way, which you'd like. But, I do think that, this is the development you want to see, and we'll know a lot more this time next week, 2 weeks from now, when you get into the preseason games. And at this point, it's all about identifying what you need to work on and working on it.
Yeah, looking at Jeff's practice notes, you can find them at WWL.com. Jake Haener, still working with the third team today. We're expecting, that he finally gets his chance with the ones tomorrow. But, overall, he had a pretty good day to do today as well. Some nice throws to Juwan Johnson. One went for a touchdown. And just, we kind of joked about this. He sounds like the starting quarterback of this bunch, has the most personality and in-depth answers, I think, out there. Great soundbite from Jake. That's just, we hope that the play on the field could be as great.
Yeah, I think what I said to you was like, if all you did was listen to press conferences, you would assume Jake Haener was the starting quarterback for the New Orleans Saints.
Handles it very well.
He has that air about him. Like, he's confident up there. He holds court whenever, you see some of these guys walk up there and you can tell they're just dreading that press conference for the last hour. Like, oh my gosh, I have to talk to these folks. He walks up and is like, hello, beautiful people, and just does this whole thing. He has a great personality, and you appreciate that. I fully expect him to be a coach someday in the NFL. He has that, the way he talks about the game, and you could just talk to him about football for 20 minutes and it'll just go by in a flash. I don't think people are as confident in his ability to be a starting quarterback in the NFL, or at least kind of the general observers, as it would sound like he is when he talks to you. But we'll see. Kellen wasn't fully committed to he's going to get first team reps tomorrow. He kind of said right. In some capacity. So I would guess that means more okay, you bump up to the second team, which includes more of the first team. And we'll see. I would be very surprised if you bump Tyler down to third team or Spencer down to third team. And we'll just have to see. That's the fascinating part that I've been waiting to find out. Is Jake Haener really in this competition? And I think we're going to find out tomorrow, because if they give him a legit run of first team reps, then yes, he is legitimately in this competition. If they don't, which keeping him with the third team today would kind of seem to indicate that he's not, then, it becomes, okay, you have a 2-horse race. And then, if one of those guys really falls off and Jake plays really well, maybe he supplants one of those guys. But as of right now, I'll believe it when I see it.
Looking at special teams, Jeff, one thing that did not go well, Charlie Smith had a rough day in the kicking game.
Yeah, that was a bummer to watch, and I'm sure he's as disappointed as anybody else. I had him 2 for 5. You could easily say it was 1 for 5. His first kick, he kicks it so high, it's tough to tell sometimes whether it actually went over the goalpost or on the outside of it. I'll give it to him because it was close. But, yeah, he had 3 misses. These were not long kicks. These were all inside 50. One of them missed to the right. 2 of them missed to the left. And the last one, it seemed like they were getting further away. And that's the struggle for him. He can make a kick from, the other county. I guess not county here, but whatever. You get the idea, parish. He can make a kick from miles away. But the problem is I need him to make the kicks he has to make, which is 50 and in. If you can make all those kicks, then we can start talking about 60 plus. But you got to be rock steady on these kicks, and these are the ones he's missing, and that's a problem for me. And I think, hopefully it was just a mechanical thing today. Maybe it was on the holder, maybe it was just something was going wrong there, and you fix that, and you kind of get that rangefinder figured out, and it all kind of locks in, and we forget about this day. But that's a rough start when you're going to look at Blake Grupe, and he's just going to nail these kicks, right? And it's a tough start to a competition when, you have 2 legitimate kickers. It's not like you have one guy who's just kind of there and someone you're hoping up, plays well enough to knock him off, right? It's you have a really, really talented young kicker in Blake Grupe and a guy who may have a generational leg behind him, but you don't want to be losing games because you're missing 35-yard field goals in crunch time. And that's what you're worried about when you have a guy who just hasn't kicked at the NFL level. So we'll have to see. I feel confident that he's going to figure it out and be more consistent. But, every time you see those flashes of man, that was rough, it's hard to see it as a true competition.
Jeff, I wanted to ask you about the running back room. I had asked this to Renee Nadeau earlier that behind Alvin Kamara, and Alvin could have a really great season in Kellen Moore's offense, but it's just Kendra Miller, the rookie, and Devin Neal, Cam Akers, who's already had a fumble throughout the first 2 days in training camp, and maybe Marcus Jarnes, the undrafted free agent from Delaware. Your thoughts on the running back room? Clyde Edwards-Hilaire is involved as well, obviously, but just who can really supplement that second spot behind Alvin Kamara and kind of make a name for themselves throughout training camp?
It's funny because the one guy you didn't mention, I've been talking about today.
Who did I miss?
I've said his name more than I expected to, which is Velus Jones. He's wearing 13, which is weird especially for a running back. And he's been involved in the passing game, and I think that's an interesting skill set to have at the running back position, because that's kind of what you need with that third, fourth string running back, is a guy who you can have. Like, I always think of like a Darren Sproles of like, you needed that guy. Like, he was a guy that you could never kind of peg of like, okay, what is his job? But every time he's out there, he's making plays. And, I'm not saying I think Velus Jones is going to make the roster, but he has been a lot more involved than I thought he would be to this point. But I still look at Kendre Miller and I say, cross your fingers because he's healthy right now. Right? Like, we're further into camp this year already than he got last year. He got into one set of individual drills last year and pulled his hamstring, and he was never heard from again the entire training camp. He's been out there for 2 days. He looks healthy. I actually thought he had a strong day today. He looked like he had some good bursts. He had some good vision. You can't really tell anything with running backs until someone's allowed to hit you. And honestly, on both sides, right? Like, if you're a running back that likes to run behind their pad, you can't really do that until they come on. So, I feel like it's going to be a legitimate competition. I have no idea who it's going to be behind Alvin Kamara right now. My gut tells me Kendre Miller and Devin Neal, just because those are the guys you drafted. I think there's a spot to be won, and that's why when you see Cam Akers fumbling on his first touch of camp, it's not a great look, because it's going to be so competitive that those are the type of plays that they are going to be remembered. So we'll have to see, but I still the talent that exists within Kendre Miller is so evident when you see him out there, and it's just a question of whether he can deliver on that. So until he proves otherwise, I'm going to stick with him as that guy.
We look at interceptions as a negative, obviously, on the quarterback, but I'm going to take it as a huge positive for the rookie DB. Quincy Riley getting the first interception of Saints training camp today, making a play on a ball that Spencer Rattler wished he just put a little more zip on it.
Yeah, it was interesting because Spencer said after practice that he was actually trying to throw it away out of the back of the end zone, which, I think what his coach would tell him is like, throw it away out of bounds on the sideline. Like, you don't need to be throwing that out of the back of the end zone. Like, I know you feel like you have the arm to do it, but the reason you don't is because of exactly what happened. Is if you leave it a touch short and a guy makes a play on a ball, then you lose that ball. And so but I do think that's a better explanation than I was trying to throw up a ball to Mason Tipton in the back of the end zone. But no, Quincy Riley, it's cool to see him out there. Like, that was kind of his reputation. I'm a ball hawk. I'm a guy who's going to take the ball away, make impact plays, because you need that. That's what Paulson Adebo did for you, and he's gone now. So, yeah, definitely good to see the rookie making a play.
Awesome work today, Jeff. Be talking to you tomorrow morning at Saints training camp. Check out his training camp notebook, WWL.com, for all the latest. See you tomorrow, Jeff, and have a great one, man. Talk to you then.
Yes, sir. Stay cool.
All right, that's going to wrap it up for this quick audio-only episode. I need to emphasize that you podcast listeners are getting a treat here because this is for you. I hope you appreciate that. But again, I always appreciate the podcast listeners because, this is where we started. This is what we've been doing for 4 years, and I couldn't be happier to continue doing this. I love hearing from y'all. So if you have any feedback, anything you want to see throughout training camp, if you want to hear throughout training camp, I guess I should say, hit me up on Twitter at Jeff_Nowak. You can also shoot me an email. I know not everyone's on Twitter. You could shoot me an email. It's my full name, Jeffrey, REY .Nowak, NOWAK at Odyssey.com. And obviously on YouTube, I check the comments there daily. So if you want to catch me on there, I try to be as responsive as possible, as long as you're not trying to be a troll, which honestly, I do reply to a lot of trolls because I can't help myself, but not in a nice way, in a trying to make them cry kind of way. But that's just because, I can't help myself. But either way, again, 2 days of training camp practice, a whole lot to go. We'll be having more episodes coming at you. Again, Steve Geller and myself will be hosting Sports Talk on Friday. That's 4 to 7 p.m. on WWL AM 870 FM 105.3 in the Odyssey app. You can also check out the replay over on WWL.com. And I'll be throwing a cut, at least of all the Saints talk. There will be some miscellaneous other sports talk in there because it's a sports talk show, not just a Saints talk show. But I'll pull down a cut of that and get it in the feed for anyone who just is morally against turning on a radio. So all that good stuff. Again, appreciate all the listeners as always. Keep on keeping on. We're going to be out there. We're going to be sweating. It's going to be a good time. Hopefully the Saints can make it worth your while. But all right, thanks everyone for listening. Who dat? Go Saints. Be easy, y'all. Peace.